think it's time. I think it's time for a live stream. A live stream on Wednesday evening because it's what we do. It's why you're here. Glad you're here. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. It's pretty darn cool. So, no huge plan tonight. We don't have a big giant topic to talk about, although there are a few things that I do want to talk about, but I didn't think it was like, well, it probably is topic worthy, but it just kind of popped into my head about 15 minutes before the live stream. So there's some things that we'll discuss as we go through the live stream, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the mods we've got. I think we've got a full house of mods. I saw Mary Page, I saw Wendy, I saw Dave from Iowa. Oink Master's here. Yeah, we got the whole crew. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple. Because
Wendy, did you see Wendy? I see Wendy.
I do, and I did.
Hi, Wendy.
Yep. I see them all. So thank you for being here. We are, just a reminder, we're not going to be live streaming next Wednesday because we're going to be in preparation / traveling for Aquashella next weekend, which hopefully we get to see a few of you there. Just curious, anybody going? Anybody here right now that's going to be heading out to the Orlando area not this weekend, but next weekend, towards the 26th and 27th, something like that. But definitely looking forward to that because we're supposed to get sleeting snow or something like that tonight. I don't really know, but the schools, our kids' schools have already we're going e-learning tomorrow because we just don't want to deal with any potential non-sunny weather. So that is the plan. Tomorrow we'll have the boys home, but
those are 8 gallons, like 8.5 gallons, all 4 of them. Just so you know, I saw a question on that.
Okay, so just a random statement.
Yeah.
They're 8.3 gallons to be exact. I don't know why I had that stuck in my head. So Claudia says, I'll see you at Aquashella. Cool. That's awesome. That'll be cool. So, yeah, we've got that coming up next weekend. And then or not next weekend, the weekend after, 26th. And then the weekend after that is a Greater Chicago Cichlid Association swap meet. So we'll be there. The weekend after that is Greenwater. That's another Greenwater swap. So, and by the way, thank you to everybody who's been coming out and hanging out at the swaps. If you're in the general Midwest area, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, even Missouri, we have some people coming from there as well. So we've had people come from the Ohio area, Michigan. So there's a lot of people who go to some of these swaps, and we saw quite a few of you the last couple of weeks. So thank you. Thanks for stopping by. It's really cool. This week in Video Land on Monday, what did we do on Monday on Primetime Aquatics? Do you remember?
Gosh,
do you remember?
Feels like so long ago.
Well, it is Wednesday. You don't remember, do you?
I can picture the thumbnail. Angels versus Severums.
Yeah. So it was another one of our versus series. Yeah, we did Angels versus Severums. That was pretty cool. I love both those fish. Obviously, we have both of them in the fish room. But there's some important differences. And I know a lot of people, when they're considering one, they often look at the other. And so we provided some things to think about before you make that purchase for a potential centerpiece fish. Today, on the Small Scape, your channel, I really liked the B-roll that you got for that video. And
thank you very much. That was my lunchtime.
Yeah.
And all the fish behaved really well. I said, and action. And they would swim right in. It just worked really great. They did an awesome job.
Well, what was the video?
Oh, it was one of my plant videos, and that was Hydrocodal triparta.
Yep, it's a cool plant, and
it's an awesome plant.
I'm going to be very honest. I didn't know that plant was even a plant until you put it in the tank and planted it, and it got all planty. And then I was like, wow, that's a very planty plant. I like it quite a bit. And it's grown on me. Yeah, I know. The plant's grown on me. So yeah, a little humor for you there. Yeah, so I think I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do? Here's what I'm going to do. You know how you take stuff from my tanks and put them in your tanks?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it turns out two can play at that game. And so if you wind up seeing a bunch of your plants missing.
Oh, no, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't, not from the 14-gallon. I know you wouldn't. You wouldn't mess with that. And you may say you would, but you wouldn't, because I tweak things afterwards, and you're like, don't touch it. Don't touch it.
I might.
So you wouldn't.
I might just have to mess with it a little bit.
Well, if you mess with a tank, guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go out and buy another tank. and just set it up in some random place.
Well, how is
Like
that
right here.
How is that a threat to me?
Like right here.
Why would I care about
in the
that?
middle of the table.
Okay, well then people would
Nice
have tanks
cube.
behind us, and then a tank in front of us, and we'd just be like
And we'll
a
be
tank
like-
and two heads.
Be like peering out from behind.
Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday night. We've got this tank right here. Don't mind it. The light's like shining right in our eyes. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So that was today on the small scape. Tomorrow we've got the members only video coming out. We're going to be back down in the fish room. We did a sciencey video last week, and then you've got your Container Joy channel. You've got a video coming out there.
Yeah.
But is it a secret?
Yeah.
You like to keep those a secret until they release, right?
I do kind of, and it's just, well, I do the editing on it, and that's usually like a train wreck because I'm really not tech savvy.
Let's not go that far. It's more like a
would.
car crash. No, I'm kidding. They're really good. How much you do compared to like how long you've been at it. All right, so if you want to see, you basically started editing your videos with that channel, and that channel's only been up for less than 2 months. Look at your editing after 2 months, and then if you want to see what I was capable of after 2 months, go back to like March, April of 2017. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, there's a big difference there, because you want to see a train wreck, go back to some of my early videos. I'll show you a train wreck when I'm standing 57 feet away from the camera. You can barely hear me. Yeah, that was something. So anyway, that's tomorrow. Friday I've got a video. I've got an idea I'm just really psyched about. It's all right here in this book. Hold on, let's see who gets the movie quote. Boom, going with the movie quotes.
I'll whip.
I've got an idea that I'm really psyched about right here. About 5 good ideas.
About peach?
Well, no, it's not about fruit. Fruit's already too vulnerable. All right, let's see if they get it. Now, but yeah, Friday's video is going to be interesting because it's something that we don't talk about a lot, but I think it's important. Saturday, you'll have a video out on the small scape, and that is what is going on for the week. So there you go. Now, we have some questions and things that are probably rolling in, and if not, now's the time to just start firing up the brain and see what questions you have. But one thing I wanted to address, because I've been getting, you probably too, because you asked me about it, have been getting some questions about that legislation that's coming out, the Lacey Act, the amendments to the Lacey Act. And basically, wow. Steel Waves, boom, Elf.
Oh, we got, yeah.
Oh, Drew, Elf.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, everybody's
Tracy,
coming out with
yeah.
Elf. Tracy, Sarah. All right, you guys are right here.
Awesome.
Yeah, we referenced a Christmas movie 2
That's right. Merry
weeks, 2
Christmas.
months after 2 weeks, 2 months after Christmas is over.
And real quick here, Ron Foss Fish Housekeeper says YouTube anniversary 5th. Congrats.
Thank you very
right,
much.
that's coming
yeah,
up.
next weekend on 26th. So it'll be cool.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. Or 27th, I think. I think I shot the first. I might have released it on the 27th. I don't remember. It was one of those 2 days.
Any which way, Aquashella actually decided to have Aquashella at that time in honor of your channel.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm sure that's the first thing that was on their mind.
Yeah.
But anyway, that Lacey Act, we've been getting more requests about it. And to be upfront, I didn't delve into that act in great detail. For those of you who don't know what it is at this point, basically it is an amendment to an act that was originally centered around making sure that we limit the amount of invasive species that are floating around the United States. And unfortunately, what's happened is there have been some suggestions to amend that act so that it would make fish keeping very, very difficult. And in essence, what you would have is a white list of fish. In other words, fish that are pre-approved by the government that we are allowed to sell, allowed to keep as fish keepers in the United States. And there would have to be environmental studies and environmental impact studies done before you could add fish to that list. Obviously, that would be catastrophic for the fish keeping industry. And so my suggestion, if you want more information, you can Google the Lacey Act. I don't even remember the bill. I'm sorry. I should have written that down before I started talking about it, but I didn't because I'm apparently bad at my job tonight. But if you haven't heard of it, if you haven't seen it, I would go and investigate that, because that could have a very serious impact on fish keeping hobby in general. And not just fish keeping, but pretty much a lot of pets if you're into lizards and snakes and that kind of thing. So that, I just wanted to mention that because I haven't done a full video on it yet, because in order for me to do a full video, I'd have to do a lot more research, and I haven't done it yet. So that's the story there. All right. We do have a giveaway today. And I am excited about this giveaway. The giveaway stuff is right here.
Very appropriate.
It's very appropriate, and it's stuff that I find extremely valuable to have if you are a fish keeper. And so we'll be doing that.
Imagine that.
Yeah, it's stuff that it's very valuable if you're into cooking and baking. I mean, we're just going way off the thing here. You know, it's just going to be one of those things where we're going to sell cookies. Yeah, cookies and flour and cooking utensils. So that's what we're doing. Anyway, so yeah, that's the story. We do have, hold on, we have a super chat come in, Fish Fan 20 gallon long. Thank you so much. Since this is your 5th YouTube anniversary, I thought that I would say congratulations. Thank you for being our friends, sharing your info. Well, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the super chat. Appreciate everybody who's here. This is, we say it all the time, Wednesday nights are a really fun time for us because we get to hang out with you. And that's fun. This, and then when we go to the things, right? So Aquashella, you know, whenever we're at a thing, we really like it when you stop by, say hello, hang out, talk fish. That's the cool stuff right there. Because without the community, fish keeping is great, but the community makes it so much better.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah. So what you got?
Carson had a question for fertilizers and root tabs that we use. Well, generally speaking, we make our own root tabs from Osmocote, which you can buy in the bag, and then just those little capsules.
Gel caps, yeah.
Gel caps that you get on Amazon, and you just make them yourself. Easy breezy. Fertilizers, we don't use a whole lot. Maybe a squirt here and there if plants are kind of needing it.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, and I did a video it's an older video, and it's the lighting is horrible, but it was a DIY root tabs video. If you search for that under Primetime Aquatics, it will come up. Basically, what we're using is Osmocote Plus. I bought a big old bag, and that was like 5 years ago, and I still have 2/3 that bag left. So you don't need a big bag like the one I have in the video. But then you go on Amazon, and Amazon? That's a new place. I hope you enjoy it. Check it out. You pay 3 times as much. Anyway, Amazon, you go to Amazon, and they sell the 00 gel caps, and they're like the little gel caps for medication, and they're empty, and you pull them apart, and you scoop the Osmocote, and you smash them together, and there's your root tab. You just have to make sure when you use those that you really put them in the substrate well, because they do have a tendency to float. And if you do any kind of gravel vacuuming, sometimes the Osmocote Plus little circle guys, they will release themselves and start floating at the top of the substrate, not in the top of the tank, but the top of the substrate. So those are really good. And like Joanna said, we really don't, in all of our tanks that you see, we don't really use liquid fertilizers. We rely on the fish. But again, we have, for the most part, beginnerish, low, medium light plants that don't require CO2 or anything like that. And that makes a difference, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the story there. Let me see here. Leora, thank you so much for the super chat. Treated tank with erythromycin and salt for hookworm on Tetra. Suddenly a discus is pooping a 4-inch white stringy worm. Can erythromycin help with internal parasites at all? The Expel P was for another tank. Erythromycin is an antibiotic, so yeah, it could help if it's not maybe although you said a worm. Yeah, I mean, there's times when the antibiotics will be anti-protozoal. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But if it is, awesome. It just depends on the parasite. But there are times, that was the whole thing with all the controversy with the off-label COVID treatments with the dewormers, if you will. Some of that stuff has some cross-label activity. I did see a question, and I think it was Leo way earlier in the whole situation here. I don't know if I'll be able to go all the way back up, but it was a good question that he asked before the live stream started. And basically he had the gist of it was, what are acceptable nitrate levels for I think it was a 5-gallon betta tank, but it was a betta tank nonetheless. Is there an acceptable level? Is there a level in which it can get too high and you have to do something about it? So I generally don't make a distinction in terms of nitrate levels by the fish that we're keeping. I treat all the tanks the same for the most part, in that I'm trying to keep the nitrate levels around, I don't want them maxing out much more than 20 parts per million in between water changes. And that's really what I use to determine how much water has to change in a tank and how often. And since for the most part, all of our tanks get a weekly once a week water change, it's about percentages then. And so once we dial in based on our stocking levels, the activity level of the fish, how much we're feeding, once we have that dialed in and we can say, okay, if I do let's say we've got one, well, I pointed these, I've only done one water change in the entire time they've been up. But let's just say we had a planted tank downstairs that was relatively heavily stocked. It's a 20 gallon long, and I determine, hey, you know what, if we do 15% water changes in this tank every week, we're staying around 20 parts per million. In a planted tank, I'll go 25, maybe even 30 parts per million. But I don't want to go above that. And so how much water do I need to change in order to not go above that maximum allowable limit that we set? If it's a non-planted tank, like let's say it's our Mbuna tank, the 75 gallons, heavily stocked, no plants. Well, guess what? In that tank, it requires a 75% water change if we do it once a week to make sure that we're not getting those nitrate levels at an unreasonable level, which is, again, that 20, 25 parts per million. So that's what I'm using. Now, if I had a 5-gallon betta tank that was planted, you might, and the betta is the only thing that's in there, maybe a mystery snail or something, you might not be doing a water change weekly. You might, once every couple, 2-3 weeks, just to keep those nitrates in check, and maybe that's not even necessary at that point in some way. And sometimes what we do is we do water changes just to re-add some of the minerals that were lost that the plants are utilizing. So, and again, that's where the liquid fertilizers can come in as well. So that's kind of what we do with the water changes in nitrates. Let's see here. Lane, thank you so much for the super chat. At Primetime Aquatics, what's the best way to deal with diatoms? Are we just talking about the diatom algae, like the brown stuff, perhaps?
Probably.
I'm going to assume that that's the case. The best way that I have found to deal with it is a multifaceted approach, and that is, one, control your lighting. And so we leave our lights on 9 hours per day, split into 2.5 hours in the morning, 6.5 hours at night. Your situation might be different. If you don't have plants, you can lessen that a little bit. The reason why our lights are on during that time is that's the time that we would primarily spend time in the fish room. Second thing is what we just talked about, the nitrate levels. If I'm keeping my nitrate levels at that 20 parts per million or less, there's not a lot of food for the brown diatom algae to consume. Third thing is, let's add in something that's going to compete with it. And that might be it would be live plants. So maybe it's hornwort, maybe it's wisteria, maybe it's water sprite, maybe it's just other plants that I like, anubias, even though they grow slow, it's still taking some nutrients out of the water. Maybe I can't have plants because I've got some African cichlids, or like our severums like to eat plants. Well, and this doesn't work with them either because I'd like to eat the roots. But if you've got something that maybe you could put pothos in the back of a hang-on back filter, or float the pothos in the tank, not float it, but put the stems in the tank and the roots grow down, that can also suck out nutrients. And then the other part of that is, what kind of livestock can I add that will consume it? And so for us, in tanks that are less than 20 gallons, usually that means some type of a snail, usually mystery snails. We prefer those. If it's 20 gallons or above, chances are very good we're going to have some type of bristlenose pleco in the tank, at least one. And when we get into larger tanks, especially like the 40-gallon breeders or the 4-foot tanks, we might have 2 or 3. In our 150-gallon, there's probably, 12 of them in there. In the bottom 125 with all the peacocks, I am certain we've got at least 8 to 10 of them. We almost never see them because they're in the rocks, they're in some caves, and they come out at night because we're not scraping algae on those tanks, and they, as you see from the videos, the glass looks pretty good, and so do the decorations for the most part. So that's what we do. What you got over there?
Alice B, I have a fancy goldfish that has blood streaks in his tail and fins. Google said it could be ammonia. The ammonia in his quarantine tank is 0.25 parts per million, so I don't think it's that.
Yeah, that was the first thing that popped into my head. I don't know what else it would be. Again, I'm not, believe it or not, because I don't deal with a lot of fish disease in our fish room for the most part. I don't know. I mean, the ammonia was what originally kind of stood out to me, that if you're dealing with that, usually if you add something like a Fritz, since the ammonia is already there, like a Fritz Turbo Start, that can help. Obviously, the water changes are going to help. With the goldfish, some salt is perfectly fine to just kind of keep the damage down a little bit. The ammonia burns down a little bit. Smaller feedings more often. I mean, we generally try to do that with goldfish anyway because they don't have a big stomach, so they like the smaller feedings more often. But even smaller, just to, again, keep the waste down can help. Yeah. Andy, thank you very much for the super chat. I have an AquaClear 100 hang-on back sponge and Fluval canister filter. I am disabled and looking to do minimal maintenance on a 65-gallon. Which filter to use? I don't like canister filters. It's not because they don't do a good job. They do. It's just I don't like to maintain them. And when you're dealing with a large canister filter, that can be a real big pain. So I've used canister filters, and every time I put one in a tank, within a month, I'm regretting it because it's like, oh, I have to clean this thing. I don't want to. And then, at least for us, and it just seems to always happen, we get the canister filter, we maintain it, and within a year it's leaking. So I'm not a big fan of them. So, and especially when it comes to ease of working, the hang-on back filters, as long as you can access the side of the tank and maybe you're putting the hang-on back filter kind of, within arm's reach, all you have to do is, I think you said AquaClear, then you can just grab that basket, have a bucket nearby, grab the basket out, put it in a bucket, and then take it to a sink and do your maintenance, whether that's, okay, I'm going to squeeze out the filter floss, rinse it because it's not so bad, or I've got to squeeze it out, toss it. I'm going to rinse out that sponge, put new filter floss in, put that sponge back, and then slide the basket back on. So the AquaClears are really simple in that respect, as are the Seachem Tidal line, because they also have that basket. So that would be my strong preference if I had to do either one for maintenance. What you got?
Deanna would like to know, have you guys ever kept rabbit snails? I just got some yellow spotted rabbit snails and I am obsessed.
That's cool. So the short answer is no. Those are big.
Yeah, aren't they? How big?
They're, I don't know, I've seen them like this. I mean, maybe larger, but so no, we haven't kept them. I'm glad you're obsessed with them because everybody needs a healthy obsession, and a rabbit snail obsession by Calvin Klein. It just seems like the thing to do. You can put a little CK on there.
Yeah.
Right?
For a man or a woman.
Oh, wow. You really stepped up your game there. I forgot about that line.
What can I say? Now, all right, this is a really stupid question. Okay? You've been warned. This is a stupid question. But, so like out in the garden, there can be snails? Like just snails, like land snails?
Yes.
I don't know what I would do if I see them in like the cartoons and stuff. They're really cute, but I don't know what I would do if I saw a land snail. I mean, how big do they get?
Those things can get like the size of your hand.
That's not cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. I think I would.
No, not when you're used to like seeing them like this, or maybe a mystery snail like that.
I think I'm gonna collect land snails. That'd be just
like
be
Gary.
fun.
Well, I should know that. Gary. Yeah.
Just have like little land snail puppies and just bring them out, and then we can just hold them in the live stream, and they can just slide all around and creep people out.
A little leash.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Except Gary's not a land snail. He's a sea snail.
Well, I know
otherwise he would drown. Sandy.
Yeah.
Otherwise he'd have to be with Sandy inside the dome, and he's not. He's
right.
in the water. And I think if he went to Sandy's house, he has to put the bubble thing on his head.
Yeah.
Because that solves all the problems.
It's true.
Little SpongeBob trivia there for you.
Cool.
Just so we're staying on task here. Leo, thank you very much for the super chat. Thanks for answering. So with it around 15 to 20, you recommend dosing 50%, doing 50% water changes or less. Just want the best quality for Greedo. Love it. I don't think 50. If your nitrates are 15 to 20 parts per million, then what do you have to do in the course of a week to keep it no higher than that? Again, if you've got planted tank, it might not go that much higher. So you can start with a 50% water change, and if you find, wow, it's still hanging out where it should be, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to do it 25% the next week, and it's still hanging out there, because again, if you've got plants, sometimes it just is not going to go above that too much. You just kind of experiment with it. It usually takes a month or so to kind of get your bearings with the tank when you first set it up. Give yourself that time. Don't rush it. Have fun with it, and once you've got it all the way you want it to be, it'll be good. Matthew does stuff ASMR. Yes. We're just going to whisper the entire live stream. Oh, you're going to
That's
do
all
that,
I know.
huh?
That's all
Yeah.
I know.
How about this?
That sounds like a dog.
Yeah, that's
Like with
AMSR
fleas or
dog. Yeah, that's
something.
right. And now,
No.
or the. That's the dog when they sniff you. It's really annoying. It's like, stop doing that. KG Tropicals is here. Elf. Thanks.
What?
You're a little late to the party. Welcome to the party, pal.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I got movie quotes all over the place today. Glad you're here, hanging out.
That KG Tropical sounds familiar. Does he have like a channel or something?
I think he does. I think he's got some kind of a YouTube thing going on.
His wife has a channel.
Yeah, she does for sure. I know that. I know that for sure. Yeah.
I'm going to
See
see
you
you
in a
next
week,
week,
yeah.
John, so I can give you a bunch of crap.
That's right. And
Now.
you can feel free to exact whatever revenge you need to. Wade says at Primetime Aquatics, all of my fish are dying. Oh, hold on. Let's look at this.
What?
All of my fish are dying in my aquarium. I think it's ick. I increased temp, but being from from Canada, we are unable to get any type of fish medication. Is there anything else I can do? Yes, there are things you can do. So I know that a lot of the meds are unavailable to you. Like, so when we recommend things like ICX or Copper Safe and that kind of thing, do you have the ability to buy meds that are natural, like the I think it was the capsaicin based meds? Increasing salt, if your fish can handle it, is certainly going to help. Depending on the fish, the therapeutic levels generally can go as concentrated as 1 tablespoon per about 2.5 to 3 gallons. Now, if you've got fish from South America for the most part, in Central America, that's not going to work so well, like your pistos, your cory cats. They're not from South America, but your loaches might not do so well with that. If you have goldfish, if you have African cichlids, they're going to be like, yeah, whatever, dude, bring it. A lot of the puffer fish will be fine. The live bears are going to be like, yeah, dude, you can just keep piling this stuff in. We don't really care. Live bears meaning your guppies, your mollies, your platies, your swordtails. They're all going to be fine going possibly. And now don't just run in there and start dumping a bunch of salt in there. But if you build that up, like, I started with 1 tablespoon per 7 gallons. And then I upped it a little bit a few days later to 1 tablespoon per 5, then it was 1 tablespoon per 3, and you got to that concentration. That actually in and of itself can be therapeutic. Now the temps are another thing. As long as you have fish that can handle those temps, you can speed up that life cycle considerably by raising those temps into the low and mid 80s. If you had really hardy fish, and I'm talking again like your African cichlids, and you start cooking them at 85 to 80, maybe 85 or so, that in and of itself gets to a point where the ick parasite has a very hard time surviving. So you have those things at your disposal, but I would also, and I know it's not the best, but you can look at some of the non-medicine meds that are more natural too. What's up?
All right. Molly would like to know, I've had 7 tiger barbs in a 55 for 3 days, and they hide all day. Do they need more time to adjust or more friends?
Could be
friends.
one, both, or neither. So I'll give you an example. Right now, in a 20-gallon long, I have some blue bleeding heart tetras. These are, I don't know if they're rare, but they're not super common. So I have these blue bleeding heart tetras, and I had them in quarantine. Actually, they were supposed to be there for 4 weeks. They wound up being there for probably like 3 months because they were just. It was cool. Like 10-gallon had like all of this, the Java moss on that bottom left 10, and they just like to hang out back there. So I'm like, all right, well they're happy. They're kind of hanging out. And eventually I told Eli, I'm like, hey dude, can you move those into the 20 so I can actually enjoy them? Because they're on the bottom. So the bottom left 10 is the 10-gallon on the left-hand side, closest to the wall, nearest the floor. He's like, yeah, I'll take care of it. So I go down there the next day. I'm like, what do you do, forget? I don't see them anywhere. So I'm like, Eli, did you move those fish? Yeah, I moved them. They're in there. I'm like, all 8 of them? Yeah, they're in there. And sure enough, they're in there. They're all behind the wood. And they won't even come out for food because there's a sponge filter in there, will kind of circle around and then it will start falling behind the wood back there.
Yeah.
And they go crazy back there. They're eating great. They're healthy. They won't come out. And what really frustrates me is, so to answer your question with the tiger barbs, there's 2 things that you can do. One, you can add more for sure, but you just might wind up with more tiger barbs that hide. Or you can add other fish that are not typically going to be as scared. So I have the second situation. We've got guppies in that tank, and guppies are like, they're just like, yeah, man, we're just going to be out here. We're going to be freaking out. We're going to be swimming everywhere. We're going to be super active. And you would think the Tetras would be like, oh, you know what? Those other fish are out there, and they are doing fine. They've been out there for the whole existence of this tank, and they're okay. Nope. So sometimes fish just hide. Yes, other more active fish can sometimes help. Sometimes adding to the collection will also help.
All right, I'm going to get another couple. Okay, I get like a 3 for 1. Mark K. Danio Dad. How long does it take a crypt parva to bounce back from melting? It's been 5 weeks. There is root tabs and liquid fertilizer. Any other tricks? I would say after 5 weeks, that's if you. My question would be if you actually pull out the, like the roots, the little clump. Is there any activity whatsoever? Do you have any tiny little green sprouts whatsoever? If not, it may just be completely dead. 5 weeks is an awful long time. Yeah. And you've got the root tabs. That's what it would require. Unless you just don't have enough light. That could be 2. But if you have, a standard light or more, it should have done something by now, I would think. 5 weeks is a long time.
It is a long time.
But... and then, let's see here. The other one, hey, Professor, long-time listener, first-time commenter. If this question has been posed before, I apologize. But how many species morphs of the severum are there, do you think? This is a Oops World, obviously.
That's a great question. So I don't know how many there are. I know how many we've kept. So we've got the...
Red shoulder?
The red shoulder. You have the standard green. You have the gold severum. You have the gold red spot severum. There is, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on it? It's, is it the Heros severum? The one I have, there's a different severum. Now I'm blanking on the species. It's not the same as the common severum, and now I'm totally blanking, but it was in Rick's Fish Room Tour. They're actually the coolest severums out there because they've got the green and the blue iridescence with the spots. And I show them all the time, and now I can't think of the species. I'm sure somebody out there will be like, it's these, dude. Come on, man, get with it. But, yeah, so there are at least 5. And they're going to be making new ones all the time because that's just how people roll. Hold on, I saw a question. Someone asked, can we turn up the volume? Yes, I just did. So hopefully that's a little better. By the way, if you guys, early on in the live stream, if you're like, hey, because we're still dialing in all this new audio equipment. If you're ever like, man, that was the fish room. Said, can you turn the volume up on your microphones? Well, I did. Hopefully it's a little better. And if it's ever not better, good, better, different, then you just let me know. Yeah, and you got to move the thing closer to your face. Let's see here. Jay says, before adding plants to a tank, do we need to quarantine plants? If so, how? That's a good question. I don't.
Yeah.
Could you? Sure.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, and so the risk you run by not quarantining them is if the plants somehow came from a tank that had, there were fish in there that had ick, that ick parasite, some of them fell to on the surface of the plant, I suppose that could wind up being in there. Some people quarantine them because of the snail situation. If they really, really don't want snails, yeah, you can do that. I tend not. Have you ever done it? Because I know I haven't ever purposely quarantined plants.
No.
Not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just saying I don't. All right. M&C Aquatics. Yep. Oh, Cryptoheros. Cryptoheros, but that's not the name of the severum. Cryptoheros is a genus because we've got Cryptoheros nanoluteus, and I think the Cichlids are Cryptoheros, aren't they? But there's a Heros severum, I think. Maybe that's a common. I don't remember. There's a different species of them. So.
Okay, this is an interesting question. This is from PCRA. I have 2 cherry barbs in a 40-gallon. How many should I really have to help them with schooling?
So 40-gallon 2 cherry barbs?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it depends on what other fish you got in there, but if I were building, like let's just say all I got in there right now is 2 cherry barbs and I really want a bunch, I wouldn't hesitate to put 20 or 25 in that tank, and it would be pretty cool. So
How tightly do cherry barbs school?
Oh, well, that's the other thing too. I would say marginal. I don't think that they're super tight schoolers. We've had them a number of times. We bring them in all the time for the swaps. People seem to like them, and they're just really hardy fish. And I wouldn't say that they're like some of the rasboras where it's like they're going lockstep. Like for instance, the brilliant green rasboras they always seem to be together. A lot of the rasboras do that, but the cherry barbs, they will shoal a little bit if if there's another fish in the area that's kind of active, or you walk up to the tank too fast. Are they all going to come together? Yes, but I wouldn't say you're going to see them darting back and forth throughout the tank all the time together. At least ours don't. So. But I would not hesitate in a 40 to put 20 of them in there at least. It'd be cool.
What are some of the best schooling fish?
Best schooling fish that I have had would be the brilliant green rasboras. I like the pork chop rasboras. I think they school together very well. The Brigittes, if you're looking for something really, really tiny, those tend to stay together fairly well. The Rombo barbs, which are snakeskin barbs, those have stayed together. They tend to school pretty darn closely. Glass cats, I found, like to stay together.
What about silver dollars?
Silver dollars tend to be fairly tight, although I forgot how much silver dollars like to beat each other up too. I think
Wow.
that was, because we've got that group
hanging
of
with your homies and then you get beat up from.
That's the thing. I forgot about that. Sometimes you keep fish and it's like, okay, we had a few in the 150, and then before that, I had a group, but it was probably 10 years before that. And so sometimes you forget certain details, and then I'm looking at these 8 silver dollars in our 125, and I'm like, man, some of these guys look like they've been chewed on a little bit, and they're messing up each other. So, but silver dollars, yeah, for sure. What else would school fairly tightly? Green neons. I think out of the neon types, and so do the black neons, I think they stay together fairly well.
Yeah, they
in your tank.
Group together.
Yeah, so you've got some options there. Let's see here. Pete Cray, thank you very much for the super chat. I have 5 cories with my 2 cherry, and it's heavily planted with rocks and bonsai, so maybe like 10 or 15 would be nice here for sure. Yeah. Yep, I love it. It would be cool.
Little pile of cories.
Yep, little pile of cories and a blob of cherry barbs. Love it. All right, hold on. I thought I saw something. Are you looking around here?
Yeah. Oh, Jason Peculiar's here. Good morning, my fishy friends. Late as always, but I made it.
Glad you're here.
Good morning to ya.
Glad you're here. Let's see. I'm looking around.
Where's your Loch Ness tank, sir? I'm working on my ode to Jason Peculiar tank, so you better be working on yours. He promised a Loch Ness.
Okay, well, that's a big promise. So you got to give people time to get that done.
I'm not putting you on the spot or anything.
Jason said, my penguin tetras are the best schooling fish I've ever kept. They move like a shoal of sardines. That's cool.
Wow, that is cool.
That's cool. I haven't
don't have those.
I haven't had them since I don't think I've had them since the 90s or the 00s or something like that.
You're boring.
Yeah, I know. Yep, I'm boring. I'm a boring man. That's the way I am. Wayne's Aquatics at Primetime Aquatics. Besides rams, what other dwarf cichlids can go in a planted 20 long with guppies? Apistogramma. Well. It depends on your water parameters. So if your water parameters are around neutral and you're dealing with water hardness, that's not crazy hard. So maybe you're in the mid single digits, like somewhere 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there. Apistogramma can usually work with guppies. I've kept them together before. Crebensis work fairly well. You've got all your different types of rams. If your water is a little bit on the softer side with, again, a pH of 7-ish, even if although you've got guppies in there, so I don't know how low it'd actually be. If your water is on the harder side, then apistos can sometimes be a little bit rough. The German blue rams can be rough too. At that point, I go with the Bolivian rams. They tend to do better in harder water with a higher pH. I was going to say the checkerboard cichlid if your pH was neutral-ish or slightly lower with the not hard water. That's another one that's pretty cool. Like I said, crebensis work pretty much across the board.
Guess who apparently is going to be in Orlando?
Who?
Oink Master Supreme forever.
Are you serious? That's
Really?
going to be
You're going?
awesome.
This is my first aquatic meeting, gathering, convention, anything I've ever gone to, and I'm ecstatic. Well, so are we.
Yeah. Wait till you see all the weirdos there.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
You're going to
there's
be
a
in
bunch.
heaven. There's a bunch
Yeah.
of fish weirdos everywhere.
That's the coolest thing ever.
Thinking
it's
about
like,
fish, talking about fish,
because let's
buying
face
fish
it,
stuff.
when you're in a normal situation, in a normal social situation, it's like, so what kind of clubs do you belong to? Well, I belong to the math club and the physics club and the fish club. All right, so demented and sad, but social. That's an easy giveaway.
Yeah.
Yep,
That was fun.
it was. I saw a question about Tanganyikan cichlids. Hold on.
Oh,
Find it.
Mary Page is going to the Triple Crown in Louisville.
Louisville. You're saying it
Oh.
wrong. It's Louisville.
I said Louisville.
No, you didn't. You said Louisville.
I did not
You
say
said
Louisville.
Louisville. People down
Why
there.
aren't we going to the Triple Crown?
Well, all right, so here's the situation.
I even have a Louisville Slugger
Yeah.
T-shirt that I could wear.
Let me drop the
I wanna go
situation
to
on you.
Kentucky.
Can we,
I want to do a collab with Mary Page.
are you going to listen now?
No.
So I can speak? You asked me a question, ma'am, and I would like to answer it. So
ahead.
I was kind
Go
of
ahead.
hoping, and I know I've mentioned it a couple times, that I want to go to this thing called the Triple Crown, the ACA. So it's basically the American Cichlid Association, the American Live Bear Association, and the American Killifish Association are all doing their thing. But here's the problem. It's almost a week-long event.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not like a typical aqua shell that's just a couple days. I suppose you could just go for a couple days, but it is a very long event.
Cool.
It is cool. That is cool, Stu. I'm just throwing them all out there for you.
Get to the point.
The problem is we would get back from this said awesome event, spend 2 days here, turn around and go to Dallas Aquashella. And I don't think we can
August?
swing. Well, the Triple
July?
Crown, at least from the dates I saw, unless I've got the dates messed up, maybe you guys can confirm, but I believe the Triple Crown is the last weekend in July, last week/weekend in July, or close to it, and then we'd basically have no time at home and then have to turn around and go to Aquashella. And since we drive everywhere, it's not going to work. All right,
Since
we
you
got
drive everywhere.
that Rock Hard Tanks has got the breakfast club going on. Boom.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
So anyway, I wanted to address that question about the Tanganyikan cichlids, and now because you got me all distracted, I can't even figure out where that question went. Something about a Tanganyikan community, something. But anyway, the reason I like that question is, believe it or not, I am going to be doing the presentation I'm going to be giving at Aquashella, which I don't think has been made public yet, but you get to be the first ones to know about it. I'm going to be doing a presentation on Lake Tanganyikan fish. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of look at it from a perspective of, oh, wow, these are where you find them in nature, and this is what they do. But we're going to kind of organize the entire presentation so that people can get an idea of what if they fall in love with these fish, what do they need for them? And we're going to kind of organize it based on tank size and requirements and stuff. So that, you heard it here first, that is my presentation that I'm giving.
How exciting.
My talk that I am going to be giving in Orlando. And if they ask me to speak again at any of the future ones, at least for this year, that would probably be what you would hear, unless people hate it and be like, dude, you're going to have to change that because it was horrible. I think I fell asleep 3 times and I almost hit my head and I drooled on the stranger next to me. If that happens, I'm like, all right, I got to redo this.
So bring a pillow.
Yeah.
Bring a pillow.
Just bring a pillow, chill out, go to
Bring your
sleep. It'll be
binky.
fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
The lights are out, so you maybe get some good shut-eye, right? They
I
turn
know what
off
you're
lights.
talking about. Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Okay. Raymond. Hi, fish folks. I got a 10-gallon. I'd like to get 6 multis, 10 chili rasboras, and a bunch of hornwort on top, and of course, 4 to 5 shells per multi. Your thoughts?
In a 10-gallon?
Yeah. Can you do shellies and chilies?
So those are all awesome fish.
They are awesome.
However, if it were me, I would just pick one. Pick one or the other because the multis will most definitely eat the chili rasboras. Those chili rasboras are
tiny.
very, very small. And I just feel like the multis, as they grow up, they're probably just going to be like, oh, look at that swimming thing. That's got to be food. I'll just eat it. Not only that, they get fairly territorial when they have fry, and they tend to have those fry
A lot.
in big batches. So you're going to have a couple things to consider. If I had a 10-gallon, I would lean towards the chili rasboras and maybe do like, oh, I've got the chili rasboras. I might have a clown pleco, and maybe I've got some pygmy cory cats. So I kind of would stay with that more just general community feel with nano fish. And so if I did 10 or 12 chili rasbora, then I could do a clown pleco. I could do a half a dozen pygmy cory cats, and probably stay like that. And then maybe you could do a 6 or 8 of something else that's really small, like a celestial pearl danio, a dwarf emerald rasbora, something like that. If you're going to go kubatai green kubatais are also really pretty. If I were going the multi route, here we've got to be really careful. Could you potentially do a half a dozen in a 10-gallon? Maybe for a little while, but what's going to wind up happening is multis, while not overly aggressive towards one another, they can get that way if they don't feel like they have the space necessary, especially for the males to kind of have their own spot. So that being said, often what people will do if they're doing multis in a 10 is like, okay, I've got a male and a few females, and that's it. And then the issue is once you do that, when they start having the fry, and those fry get to about, I don't know, maybe 3/8 of an inch, half an inch, you got to start getting them out of there because that tank is going to get overrun in a hurry. And so the bottom line is I think multis can be a little bit rough in a 10-gallon, but I like the chili rasbora idea for sure.
And how many did you say? If you were just having the chilies in there, how many do you think
just
you do?
chilies?
Yeah, just
well,
chilies in a 10.
I was thinking because sometimes people want to do more than just chilies. I was thinking 10 to 12, but then you could do like maybe 6 to 8 of the something else small,
right.
half a dozen
but if you
pygmy
were
cories.
just going to do chilies,
then you could probably do 20.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, they're pretty
That'd
small.
be sweet. And they're really red.
Yeah.
They're a lot of color in that tiny little body.
Yep, that's true. Football. Do all barb fish behave the same? No, I don't think so. I think that there are degrees of anger in barbs. So for instance, like the cherry barbs, a community fish, pretty much they are relatively not aggressive with one another, at least everyone that we've ever, the tanks that we've had, they don't seem to pick on each other too much or pick each other off. I found the snakeskin barbs get along really well with one another, have been not prone to a lot of fin nipping or anything like that. I know other people have had different experiences. The tinfoil barbs for the most part, we've had them. Obviously, they get really large, way more active than most fish, most other barbs, and for the most part, they don't harass other fish or each other too bad. So they have different kind of personalities. Do a lot of them have the propensity to maybe nip a little bit? Got to be careful. Am I going to be putting a veil-tail angelfish in with my snakeskin barbs or tiger barbs or anything like that, or rosy barbs? Probably not. All right. What else we got here? Oh my gosh, the chat got all stuck. No, it didn't. I'm at the bottom.
Are you?
I think I am. Yeah.
Yes. Get back up. Cool.
Oh my gosh. Oh, here we go. Anders, thank you very much for the super chat. Good day, y'all. Good day.
Good day.
How many angels could go in a 75-gallon community tank? Will you present at all of the aquashellas? So, let me answer the second question first because it's a shorter answer. I don't know. I have always been of the opinion if they want me to speak, I'm more than willing to, but I'm also more than willing to hang out with all of you. So I am 100% fine either way. I know that Aquashella does like to bring a variety. And so, this time around, you got Corey that's going to be there for the first time in a long time. So obviously, people are going to want to see him speak. You've got John from KG Tropicals, who's I don't know if he's doing the same thing, but every time he speaks, the presentations are really good. So you just, and I like that. I like the fact that if I'm looking at it from the perspective of somebody who's just going to experience the thing and not as a creator, I'd really like to be able to go there and see different people speaking about different things. So I don't know if I'll be speaking at all three. I know I'm speaking at Orlando, and then we'll just take it from there. If, like I said, if I do wind up speaking at Dallas or Chicago, I'll still be doing I think the Tanganyikan talk. The second question about the angelfish in a 75 gallon. Again, this gets interesting. In a 75 gallon, I feel like you've got space for 2 pairs, possibly if they pair up and they mind their own business on either side of a 4-foot 75 gallon tank. It can probably work. To minimize all chances of species aggression, I know the safest option is to have one, and they get big. So when you're looking at a centerpiece type of fish, that 75 gallon can really, I mean, one veil tail angelfish in a 75 can steal the show for sure. The problem is when they're small, you can easily do probably 10 of them in a 75 gallon. I've had a 75 gallon where I think I had 10 koi angelfish in there. And I eventually had to move some around. As they pair up, they can get pretty rough on one another. So one, you're safe, most likely. And then if you start to pair them up, if they start to pair up, then you might start to have some issues. So that's just kind of the...
I think you missed one.
No, one just came up.
No, I think you missed one. You need to go...
Oh, Danny.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the super chat. This is why we have her here, one of the reasons why, because she knows the things.
Sometimes.
Danny says, thoughts on a 40 breeder with rummy nose tetra, 1 Bolivian ram, 1 epistogramma, 1 gold ram, 1 German blue ram, and a long fin bristle nose
What a
Pleco.
variety.
That is a variety.
Oh, it's like a candy shop.
Yep. So here's my thoughts. 40-gallon breeder is a great tank. I think you would want to have a backup plan for the rams and the episto in case somebody starts bullying somebody else. With a 40-gallon with those fish, most of the time it's okay. I've kept those fish together in 40 gallons and above without too many issues. If you're going to do the rummy nose, here's my suggestion. Pay the extra money to get tank-raised rummy nose tetras. Trust me, I promise you, it's worth the extra money. Rummy nose tetras, for me, historically, have been, and I think I mentioned this last week or the week before, they've been it's been a pretty horrible experience sometimes. Sometimes it works out fine. Other times I get rummy nose where you buy a big group of 15 or 20, like, that was great. I got one left. Swimming around by himself in a tank because the other ones died within a couple of weeks for some unknown reason. The tank-raised ones tend to do a little bit better. Now, if you've got softer water, maybe that won't be as big of a problem for you. Based on the fish that you're looking at, that might be the case. Our water is a little harder with a higher pH. So that could be part of it, but trust me, tank-raised is the way you want to go. I think, hold on, I want to go down here. Raymond, thank you very much for the little sticker guy. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's a little coffee guy.
Yummy.
See, there you go. That's for you because you're the coffee person. Lane, thank you very much for the super chat. At Primetime Aquatics, just set up a 55-gallon and have 2 hang-on back filters running, Aqueon 75 and an Aqueon 50. Is that overkill? No. So it's 55 gallons, a 4-foot tank. I like to have 2 hang-on back filters when I'm running hang-on backs. I like to have 2 hang-on back filters on a 4-foot tank just to make sure that the water flow is appropriate. I say no in the sense that it's going to be a good thing for mechanical filtration, just making sure you don't have any dead spots and sucking stuff out of the water. Is it overkill in regard to having more than enough filtration for the biological side? Absolutely. But I like to do two smaller filters on a 4-foot tank. That's always been my thing. It's always been my thing. And I'm sure it's a lot of people's thing, but it's my thing too. All right.
All right, 2 things. Real fast. Okay, hold that thought. Shannon says, please do that presentation in Dallas. We love the African cichlids. You know they do.
Yeah, that's true.
You know they do.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. And then Chris says, this was just funny. Chris says, I'm in Florida and my water is harder than a blacksmith's anvil.
Yeah.
My pH is low 6.4. Is this combo usual?
No. Well, no, it actually isn't. If you got really hard water, usually your pH is going to creep up because you've got all of that. well, first of all, we got to clarify that hard water typically means when we're saying that, a lot of times we're referring to the KH, the carbonate hardness. And the carbonate hardness is your buffering capacity to keep pH stable. But usually as that goes up, the pH stabilizes at a higher level. So yeah, it's a little unusual. Ben Oatchart's in the house, and I heard he's going to Florida.
Oh.
I heard a rumor. Let us know if that's true, Ben.
Is that true?
Be nice seeing you. We saw you there last year. I think that was the one he was at. Yeah,
Really?
It was Orlando.
Orlando.
So what I want to do, you know what I want to do now? Can we
What?
please do the giveaway? Because I'm sure people are patiently
Yes.
waiting. They've been so nice and pleasant.
My goodness.
So
yeah.
it's one of the bigger giveaways tonight. I mean, it's not like huge in terms of, again, we're not doing like fish tanks and stuff, but I think these are things that are really important to have if you're keeping fish. And it's just something that you should have around because you guys are awesome fish keepers. So we're doing it all as one. It's one giveaway with multiple things. Okay. So we're back to the multiple thing basket of stuff giveaway.
Okay.
Because I think this needs to be a all-inclusive. Okay.
Okay.
Thing number one, and it's funny we got on the subject today a couple times. Thing number one is this. I want to thank Fritz Aquatics. As many of you know, Fritz Aquatics is a channel sponsor. They have been very kind to us to give us this stuff and give us lots of stuff so that we can give it to you. And they have done a really good job of supporting not just us, but a lot of YouTube people and just the fish hobby in general. They do a lot of sponsors when it comes to like fish events and things and clubs. So I want to say thank you to them. Fritz Aquatics, awesome company, lots of cool stuff. So first cool thing is this. This is Copper Safe. This is an ick medication. Ick, velvet, that kind of thing. It's an external parasite medication. I've talked about this before. I talked about it in our ick video because there are two ick meds that I like. One of them is Ick X. The other one is this. If I have a really nasty case of ick, this is what I'm going to bust out. Now you have to understand that Copper Safe is, like, in my opinion, one of the most effective meds against ick, but it's also one of the ones you have to be really careful with. You can't OD on this stuff because it doesn't go away. Like a lot of the ick meds, you'll see, you have to do a water change and add more every couple of days. This stuff stays in your tank. It's copper-based, right? Copper safe. What that also means with the Copper Safe is it's going to wipe out some plants, definitely going to wipe out invertebrates, shrimp, snails, all that kind of stuff. So I like this when I'm treating cichlid tanks, when I've got non-planted tanks with no invertebrates. This stuff is good. So Copper Safe, something that we absolutely have on hand all the time. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is this, and this is the Fritz Parashield. I was going to say Bacteria Shield. Parashield. So this is also an ick velvet medication, but this is a more natural med, if you will, and it's not like the Copper Safe where it's going to destroy the invertebrates and the plants and stuff in your tank for the most part. This has got the capsaicin oil. That is the primary active ingredient of this. So it's another go-to. This would be something you could use when it's like, okay, I caught the ick fairly early. I really don't feel like potentially harming my fish tank cycle and the plants and the inverts. This might be a better way to go. So we also have a bunch of this on hand. So that's thing number two. Thing number three.
Regina says she always thinks of Dr. Seuss when you say that. So do I.
Thing one and thing two.
That's right. So
thing number three is Paracleanse. And so we've talked about this a lot. A lot of you ask about internal parasites. And so the Paracleanse has got metronidazole. It's got the Prazi in it. And this is a 20-pack. So this will get you through. Most of you are like, oh my gosh, what's happening to my fish? So this is one of those things that we definitely always have on hand. This is another anti-protozoal type of thing. So this is good stuff. And then the last one is the Expel P. The Expel P is really good, especially this one will work for the internal parasites as well, but the Expel P has got levamisole, and levamisole is like, that stuff's the real deal. When we've had some problems with some of our fish with, they weren't looking so good, possibly because of internal parasites, the levamisole / Expel P is the thing to do. So all of these, one winner is going to get them all because that's just how we're rolling with it. You want to have the full med thing at your fingertips. And by the way, even if you don't win, I highly recommend you should, if you are a fish keeper that's keeping fish and you want to make sure that you are prepared, you should have these things on hand. If you're looking for them, check out Flip Aquatics, another channel sponsor. They usually carry them, but trust me, because many of you know, you go out and buy fish, let's say on a Friday night, Saturday, and it's always like Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening when everything is closed, and you're like, oh wow, there's the spots, there's the flashing, there's the white stringy poop, and now you've got to wait, and in that time, that stuff is getting worse, and then by the time you're like, oh, I got to go to work on Monday, I'll get the stuff Monday evening, and now it's gone extended periods of time, and everything's very stressful. So, are we ready?
Ready.
Hold on, I'm not ready yet.
You're not ready?
Do we have a range? All right, so here's the range. We're going to do a different range of numbers. We're going to pick a number, and that number is going to be, are you ready? Mm-hmm. It's going to be between, I'm gonna say, first person that gets it. You guys ready?
But they have to wait for you to.
I know.
right?
I've got the thing in there. All right.
You have to say the rules first before you.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Well, the rules are the first person who gets the correct number
Right.
is the winner.
Right.
All right. Here we go.
Okay.
The number is something between 10 and 30. Go. First person that gets the number, it's between 10 and 30. Let's see here. This thing, it's going to be freezing on me, isn't it? 10 and 30. And by the way, we ship only to the continental United States. Got it.
Got
Done.
it? Already?
Yep.
Remember last one? It went for like a half an hour?
Zach has got it.
That's right.
Zach Christodolo. I messed it up. I know I did, Zach. But Zach, let me see. Let me just make sure.
Way to go.
Zach got it. 18. You hold up the 18, the number 18?
I held up the 18.
Way to go, Zach. So, Zach, here's what you're going to do, my friend, is you are going to email us at primetimegiveaway, so primetimegiveaway@yahoo.com. We're going to need your mailing address, and we're going to send you all this stuff because you just guessed the right number.
And it's primetime giveaway singular, not giveaways.
Yeah, primetime giveaway, all one word, at yahoo.com.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for playing the wonderful game. Man, Zach took care of business tonight. He's like, boom, I'm not going to let this go all night. Remember that, was that 2 weeks? No, 2 giveaways ago.
Was it?
It just went like, oh my gosh, nobody got the number yet.
Waiting.
Yep. So, nice job.
Yay,
nice job,
fun.
Everybody. Way to play along. And we'll have more. And so, by the way, the reason why we did this tonight, we're going to do it next week, but we're not going to be here next week because we are going to be, like I said, we're going to be gone. So we've got more. We've got more coming in March. We've got some cool stuff set aside in March for sure. So there's always going to be more opportunities to win awesome things. I promise. All right. So we did that. Let's get back to some awesome questions. Michael says, why is my Amanos eating new shoots of buse? Because they're crazy.
Wow.
I don't know why.
That's a bummer.
I don't keep Amanos. So the short answer is...
doesn't grow that fast.
Yeah. Yeah, that really stinks. I have no idea.
I'd be moving that buse to another tank.
Yeah. Or smacking the Amanos like, bam, come on, guys, what are you doing? You're not supposed to do that.
Give them a little talking to. Say, stop.
Legend Fish Tank's thoughts on hybrids. You really want to go there, huh? We just do a giveaway. We're all in a good mood. Everyone's like, yeah, this was great. Congratulations to Zach. He got it. And then you're going to bust out a question. Legend Fish Tanks. Thoughts on hybrid cichlids. Okay, here we go. My thoughts are as follows. As long as people are if they are distributing these cichlids, the receivers of said cichlids know that they are getting a hybrid. That's very important. You don't want to be selling fish that you think you're kind of sure that it might be I've got these Eureka Reds, but the female is holding, but there's like 10 different males in this tank of different types of species. I'm pretty sure it's a Eureka Red. That's what I'm going to sell them as. Obviously, that's a really bad thing to do. So if someone is going to have cichlids and they hybridize, a lot of times this is with the peacock cichlids, and you want to distribute them, sell them, whatever, they need to be sold as hybrids. Second thing, I still maintain to this day, and this is where a lot of people are like, I can't believe he just said that. I'm saying it. I'm sorry. It's just my personal opinion. It's just my feels. All right, I've got my own feels here about the situation. The most beautiful peacock cichlids I have seen, if I were to put like my top 3, were all hybrids. There was a guy in our fish club, the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association, right? So it's like one of the bigger cichlid clubs in the United States for sure. And he specialized in crossbreeding fish, and he would line breed fish, and he would get the colors out of these peacocks that I have never seen in my life that were more vibrant and more rich than any peacock cichlid purebred I had ever seen in my life. These fish were mind-blowing, and he was getting big dollars for them. So I'm not saying everybody should go out there and line breed cichlids and try to, for the money, but he personally was doing amazing things with line breeding cichlid hybrids. Do I think that it should be a major focus in the hobby? No, I don't. I don't think, and it's not something I necessarily go out and try to do. So in our fish room, we have had hybrids occur, and what wound up happening is some of our dragon bloods, which aren't really a natural fish anyway, our dragon bloods were crossbreeding with our red empress. When I first allowed one of those female, I don't remember if it was a female, no, it was a female red empress that was mating with a male dragon blood. When she spit out the fry, I kind of let them grow up, and within about maybe an inch and a half, I could clearly see that they were spitting out a ton of OBs. And these OB cichlids were some of the most beautiful ones I had seen in a very long time. So it was pretty cool. But I totally understand if people are like, we have a lot of purists in the GCCA as well that would absolutely lose their mind if people were doing that with the hybrid. So I get it. It's just one of those things where I kind of look at it from a hobbyist perspective. If that's something that is going to get people into the hobby and they find them as amazing as I do sometimes, whatever. I'm not that rigid, I suppose. Could be a downside for me, What you got?
Question from Fish Frenzy. Thoughts on gold tetras with embers? They're the same size at the moment, but the golds seem more hyper and nippy, stressing out the embers. Well, we've got golds and embers in our column tank in the kitchen. They generally, they're actually very similar in their temperament, so it all depends on their temperament. Obviously, it sounds like yours are a little extra hyper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've worked out fine. We've had them in there. Whenever we set up that tank, I think we did the 15-gallon column review, and at that time, the golds and the embers were in there, and they're still in there to this day, and they get along fine. Yeah. But you never know with fish. Sometimes they just get a little weird. Mary Page is saying, the wind is blowing so hard here, it keeps blowing out our internet. Well, that stinks.
Oh,
yeah, it was blowing really hard. So here's a funny story. Last night, like when you're just starting to fall asleep, and all of a sudden, outside here, go-blam! Yeah. I open the window a little bit, look out there, and I was half asleep. And I admit, this was a jerk weasel move, okay? This was a total...
Would you like to say what time it was?
I don't know what time it was.
It was like midnight.
Okay, it was midnight. Well, you were up.
I was still awake.
I was half asleep. I walked down the hall, and I looked downstairs, and I'm like... all I said was... I think the garbage cans are halfway down the street. And then I turned around and fell asleep again. I don't know why I just didn't walk all the way down there and just go get them.
You say to me, I'm downstairs. I guess technically I was closer. But I was like, well, so I had to go fetch them down the street, which I really was the point because everybody's garbages were down.
And they were down. Granted, they were basically empty at this point too, right? I mean, all the stuff that was in there.
It was so bad. Yeah. I did put them back in the garage until this morning, and then just before the garbage trucks came, I ran them out because there was stuff flying down this morning too.
Yeah, it was like tumbleweeds. Tumbleweeds of garbage.
Jinx.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You owe me a Coke.
Do you know I still get video comments about that when you did that to me in the middle of one of our top 10 videos? You said that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Because I was like, that's not a thing. And I still, to this day, I'll get random people, who watch that video. People comment like, oh, that's a thing. So I'm not going to even argue with it. It's a thing.
And I got that from a YouTube video. Otherwise, I would have never known about it.
Well, I'm glad that you know.
Garden answer. What?
Yeah. Yep. You know it. I didn't.
Yep.
Jay says, what tanks do you prefer, used tanks or new tanks? I have found that used tanks are easier for me to cycle than a new tank. I prefer new, just because, the silicone stuff has a lifespan, I guess, and you never know exactly how old the tank is. I mean, it's got water miles on it, so generally speaking, I do new, but I also don't buy like really expensive custom-made tanks either. People ask me all the time, where do you get your tanks? Same place everybody else does. PetSmart, Petco. Petco's doing the $1 per gallon sale when we were building out the fish room. Pretty much every standard size tank we have in our fish room came from those sales. So I do have one 75 gallon that my uncle gave me all right, so I got that tank from him in maybe the late 90s. It's a 75 gallon. It's the one that's got the brown trim. It's holding the albino hecali. He gave me that tank in the late 90s-ish. When he gave it to me, he had that tank for like 15 or 20 years. Mm-hmm. I have it. Now, here's the scary thing. He's never resealed it. I've never resealed it. And that tank, at least, is from the early 80s.
Wow.
So we're really pushing our luck with that thing, because you can actually see like the silicone, it's just kind of like it's eaten away a little bit. And every once in a while, I look at that tank and I'm like, someday this tank's going to put some water on the floor. I should probably do something about it. But I'm not going to lie, I've never resealed a tank, and the thought of it, I think I actually sleep better knowing that I haven't tried to reseal it than if I did. So, yeah, that's the story there. But anyway, to answer your question, I prefer new.
Want to hear this? This is funny.
I do want to hear this.
Okay. This is from Jason Peculiar again. You guys are so funny. We've been enduring Storm Dudley here. That's not the funny part. Here for the last 24 hours or so. Load of wash, wee breeze, and a couple wheelie bins in the road. That's what they call them, wheelie bins.
Wheelie bins, like garbage cans?
And a wee breeze.
Nice.
You guys, oh my gosh. I wish I was British or Scottish. I really do.
All right,
I'm back.
Joe, thank you for the super chat.
I never shut up.
No, you don't. You're always talking over there.
I said I wouldn't.
Oh.
I said if I was Scottish or British, I would never shut up. I would always be talking, so I could hear myself talk with a cool accent.
Good luck with that. I'd be wearing earplugs. Like, oh, look at that, my earbuds. Oh my gosh, they're out of batteries. Dang it. Joe, thank you for the super chat. Get out. I'm getting a 450-gallon tank next week.
What?
That's cool.
Oh my goodness.
I was wondering if I should move all the fish over to it at one time, or if I should move them a few at a time.
Wow, that'd be a big net.
Great question. I don't know what size fish you've currently got and what's moving in there. If they're large South Central American cichlids that are aggressive, obviously moving them slower presents some problems with the whole territory thing, and they're used to each other right now. I said territory. I was going to say territorial and territory, and it came out territory. So emphasis on the wrong syllable. If they are not as aggressive, I would probably move them in slower, because I'm assuming you're going to have to set up this 450-gallon. I'm assuming there's probably a sump system going on in there. If you've got a ton of filter media that's already cycled from the other tank that you can move over, obviously it's going to help. But you're dealing with a huge volume of water, and if you wind up with an ammonia spike or anything like that, it's going to be obviously a heck of a lot more problematic to deal with than if you're like, oh, I got a 20-gallon with an ammonia spike. Well, fine, do a 50% water change, throw some Fritzheim Turbo Start in there, and be done with it. It's like, you got 450 gallons? You're like, well, I'm going to spend the next few hours doing my 50% water change and dumping like a bucket of this stuff in here. So slowly would be my preference, if possible.
All right, Phil says, I think you missed Ben Oshart's super chat.
Oh, wait, I did, because you know what we did? I think we went all number crazy, so hold on a second, Ben. Because I'm sorry. I'm positive I did, because I remember seeing it.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, oh, yeah, that's cool. And then I did the thing, because I did it all
this
out
is
of
a
order.
good question.
All right, well, then you go answer while I'm looking for the stuff.
Looking. This is from Mark Kelvin Go. Greetings from the Philippines.
Cool.
Greetings. Do male guppies always chase the female guppies even though it's already pregnant? I'm afraid it might stress out the females. That's a great question.
Great question.
So true.
And the answer is absolutely. They will harass the females nonstop. That's why we do the best we can to do, a lot of people say 1 male to 2 females. I like to do like 1 male, ideally 1 male to like 4 females is pretty cool. Ben, thank you, by the way, for the super chat that I missed. I'm sorry that happened. What would you do to lower pH for your rummy nose? I have very high pH and a low KH, and yes, I'll see you in Orlando.
Yeah, woo!
That's awesome. I'm glad you're going to be there. So that's a really good question. What do you do to lower your pH for your rummy nose? I have a very high pH and low KH, and yes, all right. So if your KH is low, you've actually got some options there because, a lot of times people say put peat in your filter. And for a lot of people like me, that it doesn't work. It's basically pointless because my KH is so high. It's like, well, my KH is buffering it, and you put the peat in your filter in a filter bag, and it's not going to do anything. So you could definitely consider doing something like that. You could look at things like the botanicals. I don't know what size tank you're dealing with, but if it's like a 20 gallon and you start throwing catappa leaves in there, you start throwing the alder cones, large pieces of driftwood, although I would be careful on really large pieces, you will probably, with a low KH, start to see your pH come down. Again, you're going to want to do this slowly, but the peat would probably work just fine with a low KH. And that's, I don't know of anything else that I would do besides those things you've got with a low KH. Yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Well, on the same is the last question here. This is from Melancholy. Just lost a pregnant guppy right before she's due. Any suggestions on how to care for my other pregnant guppies? That's so sad.
I don't know if I do. I don't think I'd really do anything special with that. Sometimes it happens. I mean, it stinks. But I don't know if I would change what I'm doing. I mean, obviously, just be careful with what you're feeding. If they're pregnant, maybe just lay off like, I'm going to give you 5,000 bloodworms or something like that. But just make sure water parameters are fine. Make sure, hopefully, they're not getting harassed too bad by the males, because sometimes that can be a stressor. A lot of times you'll start to see when they're really getting close to having the babies, you'll start to see them hiding in a corner a little bit more and staying near the top of the tank. But I don't know if I would do anything drastically different. So I'm sorry that happened. That really stinks. I'm just checking all the super chats. I think I got them all. Sorry, Ben, that I missed yours. But yeah, all right, we're all caught up. Cool. Gruel. What's that from? Hold on, don't say anything. I meant to say cool and great. All right, well, gruel. All right.
Classic.
It's classic. Let me see here. Ghosts. Where's the best place to buy aquarium safe peat? I have no idea because I don't use it. I wish I could tell you, like, just go to Fabio's peat store. But I got nothing, man. I've never used it because it would, like I said, because our KH is so high, it just doesn't matter. Joe, thank you. There are 2 Oscars and a silver arowana, several different serums, and some GFAs. So that's not too bad because none of those fish are really overly aggressive. So I might go the slow route with them. Maybe do the no, they're all pretty chilled out for the most part. Yeah, I'd make a slower move and just make sure your everything is stable before you start moving everybody else over. And what I mean by slow is I might add a few fish and then wait at least a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, and then add more. I know it's going to take some time to do that, but you will definitely reduce the likelihood of having any issues.
Dario, anyone nano fish crazy like myself? It all started with my scarlet baddis.
Would have never have
Raise
guessed
your
that
hand.
from your username.
Woo. I know, right?
Yeah.
Scarlet baddis is adorable. It's just a little shrunken actual fish, just amazing.
It's a shrunken what? It's a shrunken actual fish. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, but the shape, I don't know what it is with the scarlet baddis, but it's just
it's a big fish that's shrunk into a mini fish.
It really is.
Yeah.
So it's not like, like the mirror rasbora and those where they just have a different shape.
Yeah.
Or the green neons. What? Yeah, it's just, they're so amazing. They really are. Not to be confused with the scarlet or the Baddis asamensis.
Yeah, which got a little bigger.
Little different.
Made your life difficult. So yeah, the scarlet baddis are great fish. Just the deep, rich color, that red. Yeah.
This is This is from Oinkmaster Supreme Forever. Primetime Aquatics, if I could learn how to make my own fish tanks, the first one I would make, custom-made hexagon-shaped tank, complete with a wood cabinet for the bottom for you. Thank you for everything.
That's awesome.
That's so sweet.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the hexagon tanks. It just reminds me of when I was young. That was, like I always say, you know, it was one of the first tanks I bought when I bought it with kind of like when I was out-ish on my own. I'm like, I made the decision and I had my own tank, and it was the first one I actually got that was...
You popped on the hex, huh?
Yeah, I liked it. 35-gallon hex. Had the brown trim and the brown stand and the little brown lid. It was cool. All right, what do we got here? I see a lot of highlight. By the way, and I'm sure some of the mods have said this, but if you want to catch our attention, do the @Primetime Aquatics. It highlights it in orange, and that's how I tend to key in on things so I know that there's a question happening.
Mr. Rogers, while you're looking here, Mr. Rogers asks, what's the dangers of having driftwood that's too big?
That's a good question. So from a water perspective, if like Ben's talking about, he's got a low KH, it could lower the pH. We did a video on that because there's a lot of confusion centered around how does driftwood impact pH, because you'll get a lot of people say it doesn't do anything. Like it doesn't for us because our KH is high. If your KH is on the lower side, it could lower the pH. So that's one thing. The second thing is, and it's not really a danger as much as it is just an aesthetics thing, and that is the tannins. And so you see this tank right there. It's darker than the rest. It's got, that wood has been releasing more tannins than the other tanks. The other thing, and it's just more of a pain, is cleaning. In fact, a while back we call it the brown tank. It's got a brown, like 3 textured background, and it's the Tiger Limia tank, and you put a massive piece of driftwood in that tank.
That I did. I just wanted it in there.
And it looked amazing. Problem, there's a couple problems. Problem number one is, again, the boys do the cleaning. Well, I made a deal with Eli that I was going to do one of his sides per week. He's got 3 sides to do, and I was going to do one of them per week because he started getting really busy. Well, I had to do the Tuesday side, and that tank was part of it. And I'm trying to stick a gravel vac in there. It's got sand, but there was detritus all along the bottom. I'm like, all right, he's let this tank go a little bit. I'm going to show him that I can get this done. So I'm down there. I've got the small gravel vac, and I'm trying to work my way around the whole thing, and I'm getting frustrated to the point where I'm like, oh, forget this. I take the lids off. I pull that giant piece of driftwood out, and it stayed out. It's not going back in. Yeah. So the danger there is if you've got a piece that's really large and now you can't do tank maintenance and there's a lot of detritus and fish waste that's building up in that tank, it's going to raise your nitrates. You might start getting algae issues. If the nitrates get too high, then you're doing extra water changes. It just makes it a little bit less enjoyable.
And the larger the piece of wood, especially if it's like Malaysian, it's going to release a lot of tannins. So you may have a really great looking tank, and if you're not into tannins, you're going to come down in a couple days and you're going to say, what happened to my tank?
Yep.
Yeah.
Here's the question. I think this was from earlier, Boy Roy. What are some must-haves for a 55-gallon Tanganyikan community tank? I think you might have asked that question. That was what spawned the whole, I'm going to be talking about Lake Tanganyikan fish at Aquashella. So, great question. In a 55-gallon, you have some options depending on how you want to set up the tank and depending on what your goals are. So let's assume you said Tanganyikan community tank, so therefore you're not really interested in breeding and making sure the fries survive. That's a very different setup than, oh my gosh, I've got these cool rock dwellers or I've got these really cool shell dwellers and I want to see fry. If it's a community tank in a 55-gallon, I might, first of all, I would do sand. And I would throw in some shells, and I might pick a type of shell dweller. I wouldn't do different types in a 55. I would just find, okay, I really like the gold ocellatus, or I like brevis, or similis, or maltese, and I might start with a half a dozen of them. Give them about a third of that 55-gallon that's got not a lot of rock work, but a lot of shells. So if I start with a half dozen maltese, a half dozen shell dwellers, I might put in 15 shells for them at least. Then as we get to that after that 1/3, I start building my rock work up a little bit more intense. And now I've got a ton of options. Now I've got all the rock-dwelling species like the Julidachromis transcriptus or the ornatus, which is my personal favorite. You've got the Lelupi, which is that nice, pretty orange. And if you look at my 33-gallon long, I think I did a Lake Tanganyikan tank setup. The 33 long is the same length and width as a 55. It's just not as tall. If you want something more open water, that's in a 55-gallon. I start thinking seriously about Cyprichromis. I really like Cyprichromis, and I would choose them over the Brachardi that a lot of people like the Brachardis or the Pulchers, like those daffodil cichlids. And I would choose the Cyprichromis because they don't get nearly as aggressive towards other fish when they start to breed in open water. And the fry are actually going to be relatively large enough where some of them might actually survive because they're going to be closer to the top third of the tank. And Cyprichromis give you a ton of color. They've got a lot of blue with some yellow, more color than the Brachardi would. So if I were setting up a 55, I'd have half dozen shell dwellers. I might pick a couple of different rock dwellers and do a half a dozen of each. Maybe I'm like, okay, I want some orange Neolamprologus lelupi, and I want some of my yellow and black Julidachromis ornatus. Do a half dozen of those. And then in my open water, I'm gonna start out with a half a dozen Cyprichromis leptosoma, and boom, it's gonna be awesome.
Boom.
Yep, that's how I would roll with it. But you got a lot of options. There are. When I was preparing for my talk, there were so many fish I want to talk about. I'm like, I've only got like 45 minutes. I can't cover them all.
You have a couple super chats.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the thing to stop sticking, young lady. Hold on a second here. Diana, thank you so much for the super chat. We have a 29-gallon tank and have a snail invasion.
Yeah.
We have 4 assassin snails, small, are legit overwhelmed. They are thinking about getting some. We are thinking about getting some loaches to help them out. How many should we get for a 29-gallon? The issue you might have is those loaches might also go after the assassin snails. But if you decide, more or less at this point, you're like, okay, I'm going to switch to a loach. You have to stay with the smaller ones, I think, which would be like the lochata, which I also think are what's the other name for those? Do they call them the tiger loach? Not the green tiger loach. Those get to be like a foot long. But you want to stay with this. Don't do clown loaches in that tank, or the red-tailed boteas even, because they're going to get clown loaches get huge. Red-tailed boteas get a little bit too big for a 29. But you want to stay with I think it's lochata.
Coolies.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do quite the same job as the.
No.
I think it's a tiger loach, but so you could do that and maybe do like 4 of them. But you could also give the assassin snail some time, maybe add some more, because they do work. It just takes them a little while to get caught up with the whole situation. We have them in a few tanks, and in those tanks, we don't have any snails. Leo209, thank you very much for the super chat. Best cold water fish stocking for a nano tank or a bottom dweller tank or Odo tank. What do you guys think? So best cold water fish stocking for a nano tank or a bottom dweller tank.
White clouds?
Tank. So all of these are technically cool water tanks. All are good options. White clouds are, I can't ever figure this out. Right here, over here, we've got Neocaridina Shrimp. This tank has got the Florida Least Killifish, the gold variety. The tank behind Joanna's head has Medaka rice fish, along with now some Florida Least Killies. What else? You've got, you mentioned, I said white clouds. You have the paradise gourami, but those need a little bit of a larger tank, and you just got to be careful with what you keep them with. Pretty much all your snails are fine, cooler water. Some of your cory cats are going to be okay. Panda cories can go down into the lower 70s for sure, but just do a little bit of research there. But yeah, some of the cory cats are okay. Bristlenose plecos are fine in the low 70s. I'm assuming even upper 60s. I'm assuming that's kind of the range that we're dealing with. What else? Hillstream loaches. Yeah, but all of those are potential options for sure. Regina, member? Does that say 15 months?
15 months.
15
wow.
months. Thank you. That's awesome. Happy dance. I'm so grateful for everything Jason and Joanna do for me. Well, I'm thankful for you being here. Thank you. Appreciate it. appreciate y'all hanging out with us on this lovely Wednesday evening.
Heck yeah.
EJ, have you bred Asian rummy nose? I have not bred any rummy nose. Oh, Daniel, pea puffers to eat snails. Duh, yeah. Good. I like it. That was a big miss on my part. Glad you got my back. Strata botia, yep. Yo-yo loach, yep. Zebra loach. Yep. I was thinking tiger. I meant zebra. I like it. You guys, you're in my brain. You know what I'm trying to say. And you've said it. Love it. Yeah. All right, let me see here. What else we got? Zach. I'm thinking of stocking my first 10-gallon tank with a gourami, a few tetra, and a pleco. Is this a healthy community for this size? For the gourami, I would do a honey gourami. I would not do any other type. Not a dwarf, not any of the standards. I would stick solely with a honey gourami, and you will have a wonderful little gourami for that tank. Few tetra. If a few means you're staying on the smaller side with the tetras, I'm assuming like neon-ish size, then you could do 8 to 10 in a 10-gallon with no problem. If you're going to do a pleco, the only pleco I really like in a 10-gallon is the clown pleco. I think even the bristle nose, especially the males, get too big. Common plecos, they're going to get like 2 feet long, so those are obviously out. But I do like the clown pleco for a 10-gallon. They're really cool fish. So that's probably how I would roll with that. But it's going to be a fun tank. Enjoy it. All right. I think dwarf chain loaches, yes. Diana, that's another one. We've had some of those in our fish room recently. We brought a bunch to the swap. They're very small, and they can be a little bit more feisty than I think some people are ready for. But dwarf chain loaches are good. They actually wiped out our snails in that 10-gallon because we had them in quarantine. I had about a dozen of them in a 10-gallon in quarantine. And yeah, they were like, okay, well, there's some food here. Bye. Yeah. So Delta Charlie, I almost missed the live stream. You did.
You almost did.
You almost did.
Delta.
Yeah. All right. Dylan, thoughts on extreme krill flakes? I haven't used them, so I don't know. Long time ago, I used to use extreme. It's good food, but I don't know about the flakes because I haven't used it. Yeah.
This is such a sweet comment. I have to read it, and I'm going to take a screenshot. So when I have a bad day, like I did today, I'm going to read it.
Yeah, okay. She had a bad day.
It was a bad day.
There was nothing like in particular. It was just one of those
days. It was just a bad day.
It was windy. It was windy outside.
Wind.
You know how the wind gets you sometimes.
Makes you want to take a nap, and then you can't. And
yeah, because you got this thing called a job.
Yeah. So this is from Freshwater Sea. Watching you guys is so comforting. I love your I leave your channel on while I work. It's just the most pleasant vibe ever. You're both great, and Joanna, you're the most endearing human. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
So sweet.
Thank you very much for the super chat too. Because I just like you both so much, and Joanna, you are possibly the most endearing human ever. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. One of the things, and most of you who've been around the channel for a long time know this, when I originally started Primetime Aquatics, it was supposed to be me and Luke, my oldest son, who's now 17 and doesn't, even recognize I'm around anymore because, he says he's a busy man. He's got his friends and a girlfriend and all this stuff.
He don't need us anymore.
No, he's a great kid. He's a good kid. But it was going to be me and him and our younger guy, Eli, and we made that decision early on that we were going to make this channel family friendly. The idea was no matter who's tuning in, it's going to be a place where anybody can tune in and they're not going to hear anything that's going to be objectionable. And I keep a really close eye on the comments. I get comments sometimes like, why'd you delete my comment? I'm like, I didn't delete it. It probably never went through. Because if there's like swear words and stuff in there, I want people to be able to go and read through. There's so much other stuff in the world these days where if you want to get angry, there are lots of places on social media where you can get angry. I don't want that to be us. I don't want that to be I've never wanted that to be our community, and I've never wanted that to be part of our channel. And so I keep an eye on that stuff. If there's someone there who's offering a different perspective, that's one thing, right? Like, hey man, you said this, I don't think that's true. That's fine. But if it's somebody who's just ripping on another commenter or just, ripping people because they're in a bad mood, I don't deal with that. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to have the comment section or our channel devolve into that kind of a thing. So thank you. Thank you for being here. All right. I think we are going to call it a night?
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess so. Yeah, it's getting to that point, huh? Maybe we'll take 2 more questions. We'll take a couple more.
Ah, there we go.
Because someone here
Yay.
called J.A. got the
I know
same
that.
initials as me.
And me.
Can I keep a, yeah, so you do. Can I keep a rainbow shark or a red-tailed shark with a green phantom pleco in a 75-gallon tank? Maybe. I might feel a little bit better about the rainbow shark than the red-tail. But when we've had those fish in with plecos, they more or less leave each other alone. Just make sure you've got a place for your green phantom, because you don't want that fish messing with your green phantom pleco. I'm sure you spent a decent amount of money. It's an amazing fish.
Sure is.
So just make sure you've got some rock work, some cave or something where the green phantom can kind of go. Keep an eye on them. When they're young, especially the red-tailed sharks and the rainbows, tend to be more agreeable. So that might be something you'd consider is buying them at that 1.5 or 2 inch mark, provided there's no other fish in the tank that's going to eat them. And just keep an eye on them. And if they grow up together, our red-tail, I mean, for those of you who saw the species profile, that dude was big. He was about 7 inches, big fish, and he never even bothered paying attention to the bristlenose. Raymond, thank you very much for the super chat. Jay Oliver,
What?
member for 4 months, thank you. Hey, Fish Family, hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. Can't wait to see you guys next week in Orlando. Yeah, that's going to be cool. I'm glad you're going to be there. That'll be a
Nice.
fun time. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool. Bradley, thank you for the super chat. I just got my first 29-gallon. I have 16 platies right now. I want to add 2 plecos and 2 centerpiece fish. What do you recommend? Well, 1, congratulations. Sounds like an awesome tank with the platies. Plecos. If you're going to do plecos, I would not go any larger than a bristlenose in a 29. And 1 will probably take care of what you need it to take care of. You can do 2. You can do, I mean, if you want to do a male and a female, what's going to wind up happening is if you put a cave in there, often what's going to happen is they're going to breed once they get to the proper size, and you'll barely ever see the male because they're the ones that care for the eggs, and the female will be doing all the cleanup. Otherwise, it's probably best in a 29-gallon if you're going to do 2 bristlenose, just get 2 females. You're going to have less problems, potentially because the males might be a little rough on each other in that size tank. But don't do standard plecos. Either clown plecos, rubber lip plecos are fine, and the bristlenose are pretty cool. Centerpiece fish, for a 29, you got tons of options. You could do rams, you could do apistos, you could, depending on your water parameters, you could do cribensis, you could do keyhole cichlids, curviceps in that size tank. I don't necessarily know if I'd want a pair in there, because then once they start having fry, they just they protect their fry, right? And the platies are, let's face it, the platies are going to be too dumb to realize, oh, those fish are protecting fry, and they keep attacking me for that reason. Platies don't think like that. They're just like, food, action, food. Where is it? I'm going to follow the female around, food. And if they get in the territory of a breeding pair of cribs or rams or apistos, they're going to get beat up. So just be careful there. Other potential centerpiece with the platies, honey gourami. The dwarf gourami might be okay, but sometimes they like to chase fish around a little bit. So if you don't want to deal with platy babies, then the dwarf gourami can certainly help you with that, as will any type of ram, cribensis, or any other curviceps, keyholes. They will also take care of babies for you. What else for a centerpiece? You could also consider peacock gudgeons. It's kind of a cool fish. In that case, you could keep more of them, 4 to 6 for sure in that size tank. So yeah, got some options. Cool tank. Fish fan 20-gallon long. Thank you so much for the little heart. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up because it's getting a little bit late. Definitely appreciate you being here again. We won't be here next week, but we will be back in 2 weeks after Aquashella.
Yeah.
And
Woo-hoo.
yeah, appreciate you being here. Thank you. Thank you to everyone and all the super chats. Thank you to all of our moderators. I know you guys work so hard to keep down the Fort Mary page. Oink Master Supreme.
So exciting.
Look, the small scape is here now. Dave from
Dave from
Iowa is here.
What?
Wendy.
Wendy
everybody
was
who
here.
did all
Yeah.
the things. So thank you. We will see you guys. Like I said, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Hopefully we'll see some of you at Aquashella.
Yeah.
Have a great week. We'll see you. And